The Amalgalich is pretty widely considered to be the final boss of RLCraft. It's the last of the 3 Lycanite bosses and also only spawns in the most difficult area of the game. Most players never even end up killing this boss, but he was still made even harder in the 2.9.2 patch. Now not only are you fighting the Amalgalich, but you're also fighting all of the new updated Lost Cities mobs along with it. Many players will recommend to only fight this boss in an earlier version of the game, pre 2.9.2, and if you want a more authentic Amalgalich fight, then I would recommend that as well. However, if you're still interested in killing this boss in the 2.9.2 update and beyond, then this video should provide you with most, if not all, the information you need. Defeating Asmodeus is the prerequisite to fighting this boss, as the corrupted skulls Asmodeus drops are one of the key ingredients to the Amalgalich summoning altar, and more specifically, the Undead Soul Cube. You will also need an Undead Soul Stone, which can be found in the Green Lycanite dungeons, or by summoning and killing the Lunar Grue. Once you craft the Soul Cube, all you'll need is 16 obsidian, 4 diamond blocks, and a soul key, just like you did for all the other bosses. Since all the Lycanite boss altars are created the same, the altar should look like this just like all the rest of them. Before summoning this boss, you should know how to deal with the Lost Cities and all the mobs in it, otherwise you'll most likely die to the mobs of the Lost Cities rather than the boss itself. The new parasite mobs are so strong, they can quickly destroy even the best armor in the game. So if you don't have any good way to deal with them, this fight is going to be way harder than it needs to be. And if your weapon can't kill even the small parasite mobs, and they start to adapt to your damage, you probably shouldn't be fighting the Amalgalich in general, at least until you've gathered much more powerful gear. When you summon this boss by right-clicking the soul cube in the center of the altar with a soul key, a large flat circular arena will start to generate around you, and you will see a red pillar of flame in the center instead of the green one that you've seen from the other Lycanite bosses. After a short period, the Amalgalich will spawn and the fight will actually begin. Just like the other 2 bosses, the Amalgalich also has 3 phases, and in every phase, he will shoot a large fear projectile that will spawn coming down from above you. So the only way to dodge this projectile is by either having a block above your head or by running fast enough that it doesn't hit you. Unfortunately, this prevents you from constantly swinging a weapon, otherwise you'll be too slow and you'll start to get hit by the projectile. In phase 1, the boss will continuously spawn Reapers and occasionally use Consumption. Consumption is the boss's strongest attack and the most dreaded attack for a majority of players. It starts when the Amalgalich begins to lean down on the ground and open its mouth, and once he does, he'll start pulling in everything in the entire arena to him. Anything that touches him while this attack is going will take tons of damage, which can't be prevented from the Broken Heart bubble or from the Undershirt perk. The pull is much stronger if you're in the air, so stay on the ground at all times possible. The boss will also heal a small portion of health for every enemy that it kills this way. The best way to avoid this attack is by keeping a stack of ender pearls handy and using those on the side of the arena whenever you get too close. Once you deal enough damage, phase 2 starts when the boss goes under 60% HP, in which he will stop using consumption. However, he will spawn Epions and Geists. These Geists will slowly grow and eventually explode into a large area of purple flames. It's recommended that you kill them as fast as you can or all in one spot, but alternatively, killing the Epion above these flames will clear most of them. At around 20% health, this boss will finally enter phase 3, in which it'll start using consumption again and lob balls of Darklings. These balls of Darklings heavily discourage close range fights if you let him start to throw them, but otherwise don't cause too much of a problem as the boss is already so close to being dead. Just be aware that he can use consumption again on this phase, and you should be pretty much set. By far the hardest part of this fight is going to be the fact that the arena is like a giant spawner for all of the Lost Cities mobs. These mobs also don't even hesitate to start digging through the arena, even though you can't mine the blocks while the boss is alive. And should a boss parasite spawn, your best bet is either to kill it very quickly or just run and wait for consumption to kill it. Sometimes that doesn't even work though, as some enemies have so much health that they'll just adapt to consumption. Once you defeat the boss, he will drop the following: The best item in here being the Wrath Pendant, as this is one of the only 2 ways you can get this pendant in the game. The other method being killing Shivaxi at the Shivaxi Monument, which is super easy compared to this. However, the monument is a very rare spawn in the Ice Spikes biome of the overworld. My gear recommendations for this fight are completely maxed armor, a maxed weapon, a maxed ranged weapon like a bow, and diamond arrows or archery potions to hit the damage cap. I don't recommend using silver armor for this fight, as all of the enemies and the boss will hit you really hard and your armor will break. Golem armor or Neptunium armor is definitely my recommendation, and if you don't have an antidote bauble, just make sure you're dodging all of the viral parasites. Additionally, I would recommend leveling up your stealth to max, and leveling up your resistance to max. A good wine setup is always recommended, and again, ender pearls are your best friend when it comes to the consumption phase. The low percent method for this boss, however, only requires 5+ dirt buckets, a damage cap bow, diamond arrows, an invisibility potion, and optionally leather armor. This method is most often easier to do than the normal method, as with the invisibility potion and the dirt buckets, you can cheese the boss in his own arena. As soon as the fight starts, you'll want to run to a corner and place your 5 dirt buckets, 2 on top of you, 2 in front of you, and 1 to block off one of the corners in front of you. Ideally, this should block off everything but 1 block of space that you can shoot your bow through, and the boss won't be able to pull you using consumption. The invisibility potion is extremely important, as Lost City's mobs can see you through walls, and if they do, they will dig straight through blocks to get to you, and more than likely one-shot you. The 2 blocks above your head should block the Amalgalich's projectile so that you aren't getting hit constantly throughout the fight despite standing still. Once you're all set up in your little dirt box, you're pretty much home free just to kill the boss from there. This method I would definitely recommend over the original method, as when I went into this fight not knowing that I should bring ender pearls for consumption, I lost some of my best gear twice. Neither the Lost City's mobs nor consumption should be underestimated in any way, otherwise you might end up dying and losing an entire set of gear that you spent so long on. But in case you do ever die, you can use a polarized stone, an invisibility potion, and an ender pearl to jump into the Amalgalich's hitbox and pick everything up. However, just watch for the projectiles over your head, because he will still fire projectiles at you even though you're invisible. I would also highly recommend building the obsidian safehouse that I mentioned in one of my previous videos, as well as finding a respawner statue and placing that in your safehouse as well. This way, if you do find yourself getting too close to the boss, you can use a recall potion and get the heck out. That about sums up all the info I have on the Amalgalich myself, so if you guys have anything of your own to share, be sure to leave a comment. And I just want to say, if you can kill the Amalgalich in version 2.9.2 and above, you can pretty much do whatever you want in this mod pack, because there isn't really much harder than doing that. As always, thanks for watching, and have a wonderful time with those Lost Cities parasites.